There is obviously an intense competition between Ford and GM. And GM, as you said, they took the bailout. There are some parts of America where GM is just referred to as government motors as a result of that. When Alan Mulally is talking publicly about GM getting that money, he says, you know what, it was good for the industry. But I'm wondering, and I'm asking you to sort of maybe doing a little bit of guesswork here, but if I could inject Alan Mulally with some truth serum, what answer would I get out of him? Does he really think it's good for the industry? Or at his core, maybe behind closed doors, he and some of the other executives at Ford are looking at GM and saying, you know what? Those guys are getting a tax break for the next few years as a result of this bailout.
Chris, I don't have to put on my imaginary crystal ball here. I have talked about this with Alan many, many times, and he's very clear on this point. He absolutely believed that it was necessary for the good of the industry that the government bail out GM and Chrysler too, because, and not just Alan, by the way. I've heard this from senior executives at Toyota, at Honda, at foreign automakers as well, because the supply chain in the auto industry is so incestuous. It's so intertwined. You know, companies rely on the same parts manufacturers to build the components for their vehicles. If GM had gone out of business, it would have dragged the entire supply chain down with it, and everyone would have been in trouble. Now, that said, and I talk about this in American Icon, Ford, you know, even though they supported the bailout, they were very unhappy about some of the additional benefits that GM got as a result of it. For instance, you know, one of the things that their legal counsel talked to me about is for decades there's been a huge amount of litigation over the use of asbestos in brakes dating back to the 1960s and 70s. And Ford and GM had always agreed to kind of defend these cases together since they were always sued together. Well, Ford's chief counsel got a call in 2009 from his counterpart at GM saying, hey, by the way, we're done with that. You guys are on your own. He said, what do you mean we're on our own? He said, well, the federal government just told us that we're no longer liable for all of our asbestos claims. I mean, that was a huge kick in the teeth to Ford right there. You know, they got to downsize their dealer network overnight, which is something that Ford struggled to do and is still struggling to do. So they got a lot of benefits besides the money. But I still think that there's no doubt in Alan's mind or anyone else's mind at Ford that needed to happen just to keep the industry going.